So, welcome everyone to our first Click Meetup Austria event. Together with Christoph Schwarz, we thought it might be a good idea, and we have some great response so far, and I hope we can keep your expectations. So let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Bernhard Schneider. I'm working as a Click professional for a company called ProAlpha, which is an ERP company, let's say. And we are using Click every day, and sometimes we come across problems you cannot solve with the standard. So in this series, we are trying to provide a platform for developers to show what they are doing, and on the other hand, for consumers to get a better overview of what tools are out there which might be helpful for your day-to-day work. And I hope this is a good platform for it. The response so far is not too bad. Just before we start, let me give you a little disclaimer, and let me point out that this channel is not really related to Click itself, and besides the product, of course, but not to the company Click. And we are talking about non-commercial solutions only. I think this is an important distinction to maybe other channels. Right. Christoph already shows the agenda. The welcoming is almost over. Christoph will start with what's new in ClickSense, and then we have Boris, who will give us an intro about how to manage MasterItems. And in the end, of course, we will have an FAQ and a wrap-up. So let me hand it over to Christoph.
Yes, unfortunately, we had a late cancellation from Richard Huber today, so we can't find a short-time replacement. So we will close a little bit more than after 60 minutes. Just one question out of curiosity. You say Click Meetup Austria, and the group is called Click Meetup Vienna. How come that is like this?
Yeah, we were not allowed to, honestly, because Click demanded us to relate the group to a city, but we thought Austria is so small, so why not call it Austria instead? So I hope they don't mind.
Unless the folks in Eisenstadt will found their own Click Meetup group, and there will be a Graz group, Salzburg group, and so on and so on. But everyone is welcome, and we have also a lot of international listeners. That's why we decided to have this meetup in English for everyone to have a chance to follow. And thanks for your intro. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Christoph Schwarz. I recently joined a small company called DataBridge, coming from 8 years with Click. I still feel like a Clicky because I'm very much related to the product, and it really formed my professional life like no other software before. And I feel pretty honored that I have a lot of, let's call it a micro-influencer status in the community. So many people might know my videos or blogs on LinkedIn. And I enjoy this a lot, still enjoy very much working with Click. And I joined DataBridge, which is a small team of 6 owners. We're all owners and a partner in Switzerland and Tel Aviv. Today I'm going to talk about the last 2 years of ClickSense, really from a user perspective and feature perspective, not really user, more for a developer, for a professional user's perspective. So some of them, of these features will be probably something you already remember or recall. Some of them you might not have seen, and I've put my personal favorites here, so maybe some things you haven't spotted. I think ClickSense is a very lively product. Lots of things are going on. And especially why I'm looking in the last 2 years back, that was the moment when Click introduced 2 bundles of extensions. So things that until that very point were only available as an extension from GitHub or from somewhere the Click community, Click decided to, from then on, support and bundle. So that means if you're using any of these objects found in these bundles, they will see updates. You can be sure that it's also working in future versions. And I think it's a key value add and a starting point to have much richer interaction with the applications and not fear that you're not supported with what you're building the apps. And I don't want to claim my contents for myself. I get great support from Patrick Nordstrom from Click. He's the R&D guy behind visualizations since has been this since I guess 2 years now, and he's a great developer of his blog is amazing. I'll share the links as we come to the end of this presentation. Yeah, not want to bore you with my company presentation. Just it's a small one with 6 owners, and we specialize in Click products and also some tech ventures and mobile solutions. So one of our core products will be a mashup framework, which to some extent is also sourced in GitHub, and might show this at some later point in some future ones. But for now, let's have a review of what good was added to ClickSense in the last 2 years. My whole system is a bit slow when my big screen is transferring and shared. So sorry for that. Usually it's much faster. This is Austria, in case you don't know. We are in the heart of Europe to some extent. I don't know from where you are watching us, maybe from India, maybe from Brazil, or maybe from other places in Europe. So we all feel close, but we might be geographically far. And here is my feature list. This is grouped by the release date, and here also on the bottom we have a time axis where the different releases are listed. You know probably Click releases 5 times a year on the Windows stack. The Cloud Edition, it has monthly releases, by the way. So every other release comes out also on Windows. So, and as there would be way too many things to talk about, you can see there are 166 or so features been introduced. I'll take some selections, some highlights, and pick them out. For example, the grid size options, and I'll demo each of this so to give you either a refresher or maybe it's the first time you hear this. What is the grid size options? In fact, ClickSense has this adaptive design concept. So you have a grid in the back that has typically 24 times 12 rasters, raster, how do you say, XY, where you can dock your visualizations to. So exactly there or nowhere you can put your visualizations and dock them. And you can see that button is a bit smaller. I created them by actually changing that grid spacing from wide to narrow. So you have way more docking points. And now you can see you can much more fine-grain control where you want to put it. And in some situations, it's also possible and useful to make a hard resolution, to say, okay, this exactly makes sense in a resolution of, let's say, 1280 times 800, and you want to go for this. And you can also extend the sheet if you are in a responsive mode. You can give it more real estate to the bottom, and you're not limited to one page only, so you get a scroll bar in one direction, in the vertical direction, and place your objects like this. pretty useful. And yeah, that's about the grid size options. Conditional show on columns, also a feature. If you're a good old ClickView customers, this was consistently everywhere in each object. You had the possibility to define a show condition. So you can put this as simple as like I don't know, if you temporarily want to hide a certain dimension in your, or a measure in your table, you can just give it a 0, or you make it follow a certain formula like v show 1. I happen to have this variable, and now this column comes and goes with the toggle that I'm turning on and off. So this goes for all table objects, pivot as well as the flat table or the straight table. Mini graphs on and off. You probably know this effect. So when you create a new bar chart, it starts like this, and you get this shape of the data here at the bottom, which for some users might be intuitive, but not for all, especially if the labels are hiding. If this becomes too small, you get like an effect like this, and then you go, oh, whoa, what is that? I think one of the little known features, but I think very effectful, because I never see anyone change this, and I would always change it. I would, what's going on here? I have to move this around a little. Under appearance, you can, in the presentations, change this mini chart to just a normal bar chart, to a normal bar, because that is what most users would notice as something you can move and scroll. So if now the real estate is too small, you just get a normal scroll bar, or like on my first page, you can even turn it off, especially when you have a so-called, now I forgot it, continuous scale. That mini chart anyways shows exactly the same axis. It shows exactly the same points in the same distance. So it's just redundant information. Just hide this mini chart, and then you're good. Way more clearer charts, I would say. Little feature, but very good, very important. Custom sheet size, we talked about already. The default bookmark, also one of my favorite ones, because with the default bookmark, you can also open one particular sheet on one particular at open of the app. Usually, when you open an app, you would start here in this so-called app overview, and the first thing you have to go is one of your sheets, typically the first. So now, with this feature, with the default bookmark, you can not only set a default value, and let me try something special tonight. I want to select always the current year. So there is a field year in my data, and I want to select the current year. If you want to do this, you have to stick to a formula syntax. So you do equal year, the field name, year, the function, and today. So you see that you're right when the highlighting here is working. So it's selecting 2020. If I save this bookmark this year, it will, and you can wait for me until January if you want, it will select 21 next year, of course. That's the whole idea. So closing this, and now I'm going to add a bookmark for this. So the selection here on top appears like I have selected the constant of 2020, but when I create the bookmark now, and I click create with no further description, you see that it saves indeed the formula, and it results in this 2020. And that is, of course, flexible to whatever the current year is. And the next thing we should set is in the bookmarks, I think you have to go back to the overview. and right-click it and say set as default bookmark. I might have forgotten one thing though. I'm not sure if I set the app as well, the sheet as well. But we can double check this quickly. If I go to the hub, I close the app in the back, so now clicks should know which page I was on before. And if I reopen this, I should see 2020 selected, and I should be on my first page. I end up on the overview, so sorry for that. I forgot to set one important switch when creating the bookmark, and that says remember sheet. But other than this, it would jump straight to my sheet, and therefore recall my setting, which happens, but I forgot to set the sheet. So I hope message is taken and it's clear. Yeah, where were we? We were in 2018 still. Moving on to the November alternate states. I mean, this would fill a whole presentation alone. This means that you can have multiple selection rooms. Usually you have only one here, and this is valid for the entire app. And there might be multiple good reasons where you introduce a second and a third selection state for this. But again, this would fill too much time, so I skipped this one. The chart map layer with November 2018, and this is a perfect example here, which I showed initially. The map object become the first multi-hypercube object in the history, so to speak. Until that point, you could only pick either a point layer or a line layer or an area layer. And since 3 years, for 3 years now, you have the possibility to add as many layers as you like. I never tried when it's over. And each one has a different dimensionality. Like there is the city layer, which is a point layer, there is a line layer, and there is an area layer with the Austria polygon. And that was, I think, a start to where this made for the first time the map object really a good, useful object that can be high in information density. Okay, and I should maybe pick only the version I'm looking to stop you from scrolling. It's really so slow just because of this video compression. The map chart layer, alternative, variable input. Well, variable input, I think you have, if you're into app design, you for sure have used variable inputs since the beginning of ClickSense. The only thing was, it was an unsupported extension, I think written by Stefan Wolter these days or somebody, an ex-Clicky, but it now is part of the custom objects in the dashboard bundle, and this is of course highly demanded, very, very useful. Just to give you one example here, the show condition can be shown as a drop down, and you can choose which values should be shown, and I want this to be 1 or 0. You also can add a label if you want, and I disable the hover menu. This is my favorite feature from the September release. So now you don't get this maximize icon, which in smaller items would almost take half of the real estate. So now I can freely select 0, and you can see this just toggles on and off that variable value. But it can be an input box, it can be a slider. Also, the slider can be nicely used to have an on-off toggle. So if in my case I need a 0 or a 1, and if I set here update on drag and show the value or not show the value, I can make this even a bit narrower, and we just have a slider that turns on and off like a light switch in that way. All right, we're entering 2019. Want to see the highlights, of course. So now I messed it up. It's no longer showing my background.
Christoph, just a brief interruption. There was a question regarding how to modify existing bookmarks. Do you want to cover this in the end or right now?
I can cover it right now. You can't.
Okay.
That's unfortunately the full story. I couldn't believe I digged into this heavily, but it's really not possible to change the bookmark. It's a snapshot. It's a read-only session object, not session object, persisted object, but it's one way only. So you can only create a new bookmark, which then would get another ID and eliminate the previous one. So somehow I messed up my my variable, but never mind. I'll do this now by hand and set my show to, oh, it's -1 now. Stupid me. Didn't rehearse enough. So close this. And now I should actually see my feature list. But anyways, I know what I wanted to show you. Just it's not highlighted anymore. From the year 2019, let's skip February, but in April release, what I really liked there, April, from the June release, what I really liked there is the native container. So the presentation modes really makes this so slow. I'm really sorry, but this is almost like freezing here, and that's not due to the autumn weather. Let me go here, the native container. So the highlighting is even working, right? The native container object is also something probably you've used, but what is good about that, to mention that it is a native object now means it's no longer a custom object. It's somehow it's now in the charts, and you can drag it like somewhere on the screen. And also the interaction is pretty well solved, I would say. If I want to add this, before the objects would need to go to the master items first, but you can just drag and drop them very intuitively into the container. Same thing here with a table that I'm just going to need later. If I manage to grab it finally and drop it over here, it's like slow motion. Next time I will reduce my screen resolution. That 4K video just takes almost my whole processing power for presenting on WebEx. Yeah, and now you have toggles between the different tables or graphical elements that you can go back and forth. That was 2019. Also in September, then the expression to master item shortcut came out. This is, I think, almost overseen but very effective feature. I see many people typing formulas in the chart itself, which means it will stay there. For example, let's assume this formula I've written here, which is some jewel, release, blah, 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 is something I plan to reuse later. And whenever this is the case, stick to the dry principle, DRY, don't repeat yourself principle. So you add it to the master items with just a single mouse click, and with the benefit that you can also pick the distinctive color for this KPI. So usually they all come in the sequence of the theme. The first KPI will be blue, the second one a reddish, and so on. So if you want to make this, for example, exactly orange, and I want this to be an E, create this. Not only that this measure is now moved into the master items, it's also linked back. It's now linked to the master element you just created out of the chart itself, and it also picks the color from now on. That's also very good to use. And then the accumulation. And as a side effect here, also it was introduced that you can duplicate it, another version or another copy of this particular measure you are on. And the accumulation was introduced in the November release 1 year ago, almost 11 months ago, and this is under modifiers. So I know this could be done with range sum above, blah, 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 and there were some things that some clickies could solve, but not many people. I think that is now really simple, the accumulation feature, and you have to give it a full range accumulation, otherwise it takes only the last 6 values back. And this now looks like this corona curves we look at every night in the news and see, okay, the ever increasing line. So it's so sad because it's always increasing, of course, if it's accumulating. So it's simply a toggle here in the measure. Also very nice. The custom tooltips. Not going to show you much about it, just the fact that you can now finally, I couldn't believe that it was not there all the years before. You can add as many more information as you think is fits and matches to a certain mouse over. So here, for example, I love Click Meetup Vienna. It is for click enthusiasts. It shows the measure, but it shows also some other measures which are visually not contained in the visualization itself, but only in the mouse over. So you can do that under tooltip in most of the charts, and here you can add more features as needed. Yeah, nice also, the line style. And for this, I'm not going to draw this, but reuse one of the examples. Wow. Let's sort it by the URL. I think we're faster. The line style, here's an example in one of these What's New apps, which I really recommend you to look whenever there's a new version coming out. So every other month, there is also on demos.click.com, you will find the respective demo app that really shows all the new and good features. And the line style also finally introduced the possibility to give different lines a different width. So this one is thicker than the other one because obviously it's somehow more important. You can also make a line dashed if needed, as opposed to the ones to be solid. And also which came together is the trend lines. So with just the click of a mouse, you can add to each of your measures a trend line. And that can, again, have different styles. So the first one, which almost looks like it is not working because nobody thinks this is a trend, but this is the average of all the points. I think the one that most people refer to as a trend is the linear style, like this, but it can also be a polynomial line. So that means a more complex line trying to describe the shape of your data and so on. That was also introduced in the February release. So we're already in this year. And with April, we've seen another nice feature called the sheet triggers. For those of you who recall Click Few Times, that was a feature we also enjoyed there. So that means that the sheet itself on open can make some actions. For example, set a certain variable, to initialize a variable, or to make a pre-selection, because often on a certain page you want to start and make, for example, a currency selection, or a, I don't know, select the current year. So that is all those actions can be put here on the right, and when you navigate to the specific sheet, it will just make that selection. Just demoed here very really quick. Coming back to this sheet, the year, as I just said, is now selected to 2019. Yeah, we're coming towards the end. June 2020. Also a nice little feature is that you can set the scroll bar size. I'm not exactly sure when Click started to introduce this. I need to just watch out. Now I'm in the container, so I first need to open the properties for that particular object. Now I'm in the list here. So Click introduced under presentation another submenu, styling, which gives room for way more settings. And I'm sure you will enjoy some of them. For example, reduce the font size a little to have a higher information density. You can highlight the rows on hover. These are examples that work for the chart, for the table object. And the feature I was talking about is this scroll bar size, which should be medium or large, because the tiny one is not only simply overseen, it's also hard on mobile devices to operate, whereas this one is not. And the spark lines are also very cool, are in cell graphics. They were introduced just before summer this year in the June release. There are two things that the table objects got as a feature. The one is called, what is it, icons or something. So you can have these icons together with a number. For example, negative numbers, and this is especially good for colorblind, have a down triangle, and this is especially bad for colorblind, the status with just a green and yellow or something. That has been introduced prior. It's called the indicators, and then spark lines a bit later this year, which finally brings back also a feature ClickView had in the good old days. And this is an iterating and an inline graphics in a table. It's really ridiculous how slow this is due to the presentation, so sorry for this. And each of these dots here represents a dimension you can choose, typically a month or something, so a timeline, that you can see yourself what this all can do. Yeah, last one for today is, and now I need to go back, find my meetup, and the last one is the animator. I love the animator because you can iterate through values that are available in a field automatically. So you can lean back and watch for outliers, for example. And to give you just a little fun exercise here, this is the Earth that is rotating throughout the year around the sun. And what this does here, this little progress indicator here with the play button, it just toggles the values. It can do that in a loop. It can aggregate the values, so it could like add the next value on top of the previous ones, or just iterate through it. And this is just a little outlook on my Ministry of Silly Charts, which will come out in the next weeks. And this is one of the charts I'm going to show there, the sun and the Earth and how it rotates around. you could build your own analog clock like this if you want. Funny stuff like this is also allowed in Qlik. Yeah, with this, I'm done with my live demo. Again, I got all those input from Patrick Nordstrom, and he has extremely well prepared visualization tips. You can take a screenshot now and just use the bit.ly link here, or get the presentation afterwards from a download on Meetup. Just to give you one example how this guy is really, in case you don't know him, how he's doing. He has responded to a visualization catalog, and he's built all the bloody charts that are here with means of Qlik. So this guy, probably like me, spends nights to define visualizations, and I've seen, if not all, then let's say 95% of these charts with means of Qlik, and you can even download the app. So he's discussing here below how he was doing that, and he's really, really great. Maybe we get him one day to talk here in the Qlik meetup. Yes, that's it from my side. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, here's a short reminder. I love to see you, although I don't, but I know you're there because of all those positive reactions. The silly charts will coming out, and you will have lots of laughter and fun this year. I make sure. Right. Back to you, Bernhard, or next presenter, Boris.
Right. So if you're right with that, I'll just take over from here then. I'll start sharing my screen. I hope this works. And just take the take the presenter ball. Great, it's good. We've tested it before, but seems I cannot really share my screen right now. Bernhard, could you try and give me the presenter or host rights again? Change presenter. Oh, this looks great. All right, brilliant. Wouldn't be a WebEx if we wouldn't have any like technical issues, right? So welcome all. My name is Boris. I'm working for a company in Germany called Inform, specifically for a subsidiary of Inform called the Data Lab. Today I'll talk to you about like master item management, which is I think a key aspect that is currently still missing from Qlik, but might be coming in a future release. I do not have any insight on that, but I'll fill you in on a couple of like tips and tricks that I've found and the solution that I've developed, and then other solutions that are on the market to illustrate of how I try to bridge this gap. First of all, who am I? So, like I said, my name is Boris. I'm a Qlik luminary for the second year in a row now. Have been in 2019 and I'm again in 2020. I started out as a Qlik consultant back in 2015, but have moved on to become the head of sales and pre-sales for Inform's Data Lab. So I've moved from being a only techie role to having like a mixed role between like strategic decisions and business development, but still heavily lean into the pre-sales side of the job. And then, like Christoph just said, spend some nights coding some crazy ideas that you get while showering in the evening, right? So Inform Data Lab, just to give you like a short introduction, is a team of like young people taking care of all things data. So from data management, data integration, data strategy formulation, all the data analytics like our Click solutions and Click projects, and data science projects when it comes to like running machine learning, building and training algorithms and all these things is stuff that we do. Some of you might know us for something else, which is Write, the so-called write-back extension. If you're interested in that, just get in touch with us. No problem, but this is not what I'm supposed to be talking to you about today, or what I want to talk to you about today. Master item management, like I said, is a very important aspect, or would be a very important aspect of ClickSense, because master items are really important to what ClickSense is supposed to be. What are master items? Master items, in my opinion, are the cornerstone of self-service business intelligence, right? So if we want to build our own applications, build our own charts, create our own business analytics, data exploration tools, then we will need to, if we do not want to get people too deep into syntax and coding, but I want to enable them to just like drag and drop their charts together, we need to give them some tools, right? And I think master items are key to that, right? So you don't need to like type out all of your expressions, you just drag and drop some from the toolbox, and then you can rely on them being correct. Right, so the single point of truth is, in my opinion, the second most important aspect here. So that if you have a KPI or a measure that's called sales or total sales, then you can be sure that this is the correct formula. You don't need to pay any attention to it. And that is even more important if you've got your like crazy 37-line Excel formulas, right? And another aspect is something that I've just noted from what Christoph told us is they heavily weigh into the DRI or DRY principle, right? Do not repeat yourself. Excellent, right? So because if we want to use this total sales expression again and again and again, obviously I want to not write it again and again and again. And what's even more important is that if I want to adjust it because I've made a mistake or some parameters have changed or something like that, I need to touch my set analysis or anything. I don't want to have to edit 15 different objects, but just want to edit this master item that will have an impact on everything else. And then I've put the buzzword on here as well, right? Data literacy, very important. But why is this connected, or how is this connected to master items? In my opinion, when you're working with master items and you're looking into the toolbox, then you can always see what is the formula, which fields are built into this thing, right? So even though you do not have to write it, you can understand what has been used here to build this measure, to build this KPI that I'm going to use to form a decision, right? So master items, very important for Click and self-service business intelligence. So what are master items not? Sadly, currently in Click, you do not have the option to easily distribute and share master items across a multitude of different applications or even across different ClickSense sites, except if they are bundled in the application. They're not versioned. I don't know who of you had the joy of going through this, but if you write a very complex ClickSense expression in the master item editor or in the expression editor of ClickSense, and then come back and change it at some point, there's no way of rolling it back to what it was before if you've left the app or published the app in between, right? So you would need to go back to a different version of the app where you can hope to find the old expression again if you only keep the master item maintained within the ClickSense application. Then also, they're not centrally managed, right? So sometimes different apps are built on the same data and you want to reuse master items. So you can have like different applications that, for example, have your total sales or your total quantity sold, your cost of goods sold, something like that. You can have that in controlling apps and sales apps, in finance apps and all these other things. So it would be easier to just have like a central space where you keep these master items and then distribute them to the applications where they're supposed to be used, rather than having to copy and paste them across the board. And then you're going to run into your dry principle again, right? Because now you've got the master item, you can reuse it within an app, but now you cannot reuse it across different apps. So if you want to change one, Now you do not have to touch individual charts, but now you will have to go and touch different apps to maintain your master items, which is a problem. And I think this is kind of ruining the enterprise readiness of this feature, right? Because you do not have proper version control. You have no way of like running DevOps with master items, because you need to have a way to increase this in your build processes. And this kind of like takes away it definitely doesn't take away the usefulness, right? So that I still think that everything that we've had on the previous slide counts, but I still think that is kind of takes away some of the benefits that come with the feature. So what can be done? This is a question that I've asked myself when I went on this journey a couple of years ago, and the answers I got most of the time was like, easy, Boris, use a variable, right? I think variables are great. We've heard from Christoph that variables can be used in a multitude of different ways now, and that ClickSense more easily integrates with variables these days. Variables have another advantage. They can be set in the script, which means that you can go ahead and enter and use your click script to maintain your master items and your expressions. You do not have proper syntax highlighting for functions that are only available in the front end. And Christoph, you've raised a hand. Do you want to say something?
Not that I want to spoil here, but the last point to some extent is now compromised, because there is you can see the expanded value behind a dollar bracket expansion when you're in the formula editor. And this was introduced, I think, also 1.5 years back. This is very useful to see, okay, what does dollar sales really mean? Mm-hmm. But I get the point.
Yeah, I tried that in apprehension of this remark coming, and what it shows you is the actual evaluation of the formula. But I can show you this in a minute. So it doesn't really resolve to give you the expression, but it directly resolves the expression again. All right, so it can be used anywhere with an expression field, and then I think the variables have some downsides as well, right? So they can't be unlinked to build upon. So if you're working with a chart and you're clicking on this tiny chain symbol, all you will get is the expression that is currently maintained here, which is just the variable expansion. So there's no way that you can use the formula to then add or modify your set expression slightly for an expression that you only want to use in a specific chart. And then the formula is not shown in the editor either, right? So at least the way that I did it, I didn't see it in the variable preview at the bottom, because I thought, or I had hoped at least, that you could see it there. But we'll have a look at that in a second. Then there's also something that has been around, I think, 4 years ago, but hasn't been developed on since then. It's called the governed metrics service. I don't know what has happened to it, but they seem to have to discontinue this. This was like an idea by Click to engage this paradigm, but they've never continued developing it. So if you want to look into this, you can have a short search for governed metrics service. You'll find it, but you'll also find that I think the last ClickSense version that they've tried it with was 3 point something, and yeah, that's been a while. All right, so what would be my key requirements for master item management within ClickSense? So I think it should be easy to use, right, both for administrators and developers. So for people who want to govern master items across multiple apps, should also be easy to implement for people who are creating apps. The installation or running like this centralized master item management shouldn't be a pain in the backside, right? So this should be something that should be easy for everybody who wants to do it. It should include some sort of like backup restore feature, some historization of your master items and the way that that you're able to roll them out across your enterprise deployment. There should be low overhead, right? So it should be as low impact to have this thing as possible, right? You don't want to have like a 70 service massive Docker swarm that is just there to take care of your master item library. like I said, it should be able to share these across multiple environments. And then I think it's important to just leave them as plain master items, right? So going around trying to stick them into variables and reusing these variables across the platform like we did back in the Click days. I don't think it's attractive. It works, but I don't think it's very attractive. And then obviously governance, right? So this might be an issue that you would want to have like separate people managing separate master items, but we wouldn't want to get ahead of ourselves there. So there are a couple of like different approaches of how different people have tackled this issue. I've chosen 3 that I want to discuss with you today, that I want to show you today. So I'm open for any recommendations with regards to anything that I've missed, anything that is interesting or can be done in a similar way. Obviously, I do not know anything or everything. I need something at least like Ginkgo. So the first one is called the Ginkgo Master Item Manager, or short MIM or MIM, which is an extension-based tool, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later. The second one I want to discuss with you is the ClickSense Master Item Repository, which has been developed by myself, right? So full disclaimer, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, which isn't too easy because I think that these days it's not the best solution anymore. I'll show it to you anyway. And the last one is a server-side extension that has been created by the man with the hat, Rob Wunderlich, for, I think it was a Master Summit last year, which is like a toolkit that combines a couple of different server-side extension modules to give some quality of life features to Click developers. So we've got your standard analytics connections features like having some statistics functionality, but you also have some tools that help you author your ClickSense environment, right? So let's have a little more detailed look on what these individual solutions do. The first one I wanted to talk to you about is the Ginkgo Master Item Manager. So I've drawn these graphics myself because I couldn't be asked to do it in PowerPoint this morning. So I apologize for the handwriting. How this works is, and I'll show this to you live in a second, right? So you've got an Excel template file that contains your all of the properties that go into forming what a measure is, right? So it's got the name, it's got an ID if you've got it, it has the description, it's got the expression, so what's called the definition then, it's got the colors and all these things, right? So you have this Excel file, and then you load this Excel file into your ClickSense data model. If it's in your QVF, then you can use an extension that they ship to import what is in that ClickSense table now, and then form the master items from this. Right, so you need to have the data in the Click data model, at least like the metadata for these master items, and then at the push of a button, you can create, update, or delete the master items within that application. There's also a very neat feature which allows you to just push a button and then create this Excel template file just from the master items that were already created within the ClickSense application. Right, so you could export your master items, then save them or store them, check them into your version control system, or re-import them into a different app, right? So, but you always have to, or you have to go the direction of importing them into the Click data model by doing a reload, a full reload, or a partial reload. So they included this feature as well, where you could just do like a replace load for your master items, and then push them into the metadata of the application, right? So how does this look live? I'll just go to our ClickSense server here, and the easiest way to do this is, or to show you this, is by having a look at the master item template file, which looks like this, right? So you have your measure expression, which is just your, I'll zoom in a little bit. For those who have 4K displays, to show you the expression that is going into the measure. You've got the measure name, you've got a label expression, so you put this in single quotes to eliminate any risk of this this expression failing. And then you have like all of the other metadata. And I think this is where this thing really shines, right? Because you've got all of this other information, like the color information, which can now be set by, for individual like measures and dimensions. You've got, tags, all of these things, which is really neat. And then the way that you deploy this, like I said, is you create an application. Let's call this, demo. Hope they don't mind. And then, like I said, you have to get this table into the click data model. So the easiest way to do this now is to drag and drop this in here. You can see the pre-sales is making me use the data manager versus the load script now, but this will work for this very simple data model, which not really a data model, I know. So we've got these three tables in here now, which I've just taken from this template file. And then all I have to do is take the Ginkgo extension in here and say, for example, edit measures. And then I say synchronize. And what this does now is synchronizes the table that I've just loaded with my current application. And if I look into my master items now, then I'll find these measures that I've just seen in my Excel file in here, right? So what have I done now? I've just created an entirely new application, loaded these two files or these three tables. I guess I could have skipped the introduction, but loaded these three tables in here and then use this extension to synchronize my measures and or dimensions with the dimensions and measures that I have in the app, right? So if the ID is still the same, but any of the other information changes, this will also update the current version in here. We've got a couple of quality of life features. So like I said, you've got the ability to download your current measures. So I can just click this button and I get the same measures that I've just imported just as a CSV file. I can import this into another application, which is absolutely cool. I can delete the current master items, and I can also look at which of my current measures will be impacted by changes from the data that I've just imported into the table, right? So this is the Ginkgo application. I'll have to jump back between my presentation and the click environment for a couple of times now. So the advantages I see is we've got a standard template file. This can be easily maintained. You can have one for all contextually similar applications, which is really cool. You can have this be loaded every time that the app is reloaded, or you'll have to do this actually. And then every time you do changes within this template file, then you have to go into the extension and push the button to publish these changes. But this is, I think, one of the downsides, but it's not really a big deal breaker. You have indirect version control because you can always like export your definitions and then check your template file into your version control system. This is the only variant that I'll show you today that does not have a server component, right? The master item repository has a node server running in the background, and then the server-side extension obviously is a service as well. The installation is dead easy, right? So you import the extension, and then, like you've seen, you just drag and drop your table file in there, quick synchronize, and that's it. You have the validation feature, which I've shown you, and you have the full metadata support, which I think is really neat as well, right? So you've got the ability to set your segmented colors, all these things, and this thing is published under the MIT license, so it's free to use. You can find the project under the link at the bottom here. The disadvantages, in my opinion, are it's a bit rigid. What do I mean with this is the template file, the field names, everything has to be like it is in this thing here, right? So obviously we do not need to set any or specify any settings. We do not have to create an interface or anything, but we're kind of forced to use the way that they're doing it here, which is fine. I think I had to pick some disadvantages, right? Another disadvantage I feel is that every app needs to be touched, right? So if you change your sales KPI, for example, and then you have 7 apps that this is related to, you need to go into each of these apps, load the new specifications into it, and then click on synchronize in all of them, right? So you do not have like an automatic way to push changes. Right. So the next one that I wanted to look at, again, hand drawing, I know, is the ClickSense master item repo or repository, which I've created. So this is, probably the most cumbersome solution, because it's creating like a service that maintains a database service. It has got a front end that has been created in React.js. And then we have like an Enigma.js interface that is talking to the Engine API and then our ClickSense environment. How this works is that you have like the front end, and then through the front end, you can save master item specifications from the ClickSense environment that is connected to the master item repository. So you've got the option to save like all the master items. You have to select the app from the interface. We'll have a look at this in a minute, so you don't have to explain this into too much detail. And then on the other way around, we've got the option to just choose a master item and then publish it to an app of our selection, right? So what would that look like? Let me get rid of at least try to get rid of this interface from WebEx, because it's humongous. So the master item repository, so I've got it running in the background now, right? So it's running on localhost 1212, and I'm using it with desktop because I couldn't be asked to run like circles around the certificates on our demo server, which I should have done probably, but it works on desktop anyway. Look at this app, Crystal. Look what I've got here. I've got Patrick's like top 10 list tips from ClickWorld, which is, I think, amazing, and just building on what Christoph has just shown us. Anyway, so the master item repository, or MIR in short, looks like this. It's not pretty, but it works in a way. So what it does is it connects to your ClickSense environment, like I said, talks to the Engine API and asks it, so tell me which apps do you have, right? So we'll find the top 10 list tips like we've just seen, and then I normally like to play around with my Lego demo, which I call BrickSense. I'm a funny guy. Anyway, so let's just click on BrickSense and click load. What this does now is like it loads all of the master measures and master dimensions coming in from the application. I can have a look at the name and the label of it, and then if I want to store these master items, all I have to do is to just click on this download button, right? So it doesn't allow me to re-download it, right? Because this thing hasn't changed now. So I can store a couple of these and then save all of these or save all these measures. I can do the same thing for dimensions, right? I've always been looking at measures in the last couple of things, but everything that we do works for dimensions and measures. But most of the time, the measure expressions are a bit more complex. But obviously, you want to or can have the same level of governance with dimensions as well. Let me just pick everyone's favorite ClickSense demo to show you what it looks like if a measure has been imported before. So what this does now is it tells you with this orange button here that this measure is already in the system, but he asks you if you want to update it to V5, right? So for budget percentage, 4 former versions have already been loaded into MIR, and if I click on this now, a 5th version has been pushed in here, right? So this thing doesn't look at the contents. It just knows that the ID that is in the system is already or has already been saved. So it's not really doing any like diff comparison to see if anything has actually changed to then store like a new version, right? So if I go back to BrickSense now, even though all of these master items haven't changed, I have the orange buttons here as well, right? So this is how you get these things out of the applications, and then we can click on this button that says Show Master Item Repository to have a look at the Master Item Repository, and this then loads all of the measures that we've pulled from different apps in here, right? So it shows me the title of the master item that I've saved. It shows me the current version, tells me whether it's a measure, dimension, and which app it originally came from. I can look at this and I can see that version 1 version 2 and 3 have already been deleted. This has been renamed. Yeah, this is not too nice, but anyway, so what I can do now is I can change this master item in place if I want. So I can click edit, then I can change the name, the label, description. I can divide this by 3 again, for example. That probably doesn't make too much sense. And I can save it. Now this has been updated in our database, and what I can do now is I could also delete it, or I could export it to an application of my choice. Right, so let's just change the name of this to Budget Forest, for example, save it, and then push it to my favorite demo. Now, feedback would be nice, but I've clicked this button, and what has happened now is this master item has been created in my BricsSense application. So if I look into this now, and go in here, click on Edit Sheets, and look into Master Items and Measures. Find the budget Boris in here with all of the information. It also adds to the description that it has been exported or imported and modified by the master item repository, right? So this could theoretically be removed, but I wanted to have this in here to know, okay, so all of these have been automatically created and not been made by a person actually. Right, so this is how you can get like master items. So I pulled this from the consumer goods sales and now push this to my Lego demo. I'll not get into too much detail here, but this is how the master item repository works. Right, so I can pull master items from an application of my choice and then push it to an application of my choice as well, and keep different versions of the same thing. So, and another feature that I haven't talked about is like the clone feature, which allows me to just clone the latest version of a master item and then edit this, right? So what I wanted to use this for is if I export the current master item, I want to change it. I might want to store the original definition, for example, right? But I can delete these as well, obviously. Okay, so let me jump back to the presentation. So this is what the QuickSense Master Item Repository looks like. The advantages are it's an external application, right? So I don't need to open QuickSense or touch QuickSense to use it. I could just be an administrator who is asked to, yeah, could you just move my master item from A to B, and I just navigate to the website, pull the master item from one app and shove it into another one, and it will work no problem. I don't have to touch QuickSense at all. I've got multiple versions of the same the same master item in the same space. I can clone and update master items in the master item repository. I can deploy master items centrally. So I've got a single place, and from that I can share these master items across a multitude of different applications without any issue. And it's push and pull, right? So I can pull from the QuickSense master item repository all of the information, all of the metadata directly into the repo, and then push it into other applications again. The disadvantages are it's an external application, right? So I think it's an advantage, it's also a disadvantage, right? So it's not as easy as the Ginkgo solution that we've just seen, right? So there you just had to import an extension, load the data, and you were good to go. Here you have to set up the service, you have to export certificates, you have to connect it to your QuickSense server. All of this has been made easy by a config file and all these things, right? But it's not really not something that like a not very technical savvy controlling user would do or could do, I assume. There's an extra service to maintain, right? So this thing needs to be running in the background. And then this is, I think, very important, and it doesn't update master items yet, right? So if I were to pull a master item, change it externally, and then push it into an application again, it doesn't overwrite the original, but rather creates another one, which is really confusing or can be really confusing to users. So with the new method in the API that allows you to push properties into objects, I think this is very easy to fix, but I just didn't have the time to do it there. And then setting this thing up is an NPM installation, right? So for those of you who do not know, NPM is like the node packet manager. So the way that you get this thing up and running is you have to download a zip file from GitHub, then you run npm install, and it downloads like tons of different dependencies. and then it's just a service to run, so it doesn't even come with an executable or anything like this, right? So it's not for people who are of the faint heart when it comes to seeing code. Anyway, so now to the last thing that I wanted to look at, which is become kind of like my favorite way of doing this, is the ClickView Cookbook SSE, or server-side extension, that has been created by Rob Wunderlich. Rob is or has said that, so I wanted to create this thing to help Click users all around the world to make like authoring ClickSense easier. I think bridging the gap to ClickView was also like an issue or an idea, but I'm not too sure about this anymore. But this thing has become very, very potent. Right. So how does this work? For those of you who do not know how server-side extensions work, this is a service that's running in the backend. It used to, or probably so it's like a gRPC protocol that is then connected to ClickSense. ClickSense is connected to server-side extensions through the QMC, through the so-called analytics connector. Or through an ini file in your ClickSense desktop, which is probably not where you want to manage your master items, but which is where I'm doing my demo. So the idea here is that you can access functions in server-side extensions in two ways, right? So the name analytics connection kind of like hints at it, but the idea originally was to use this to run machine learning, advanced analytics algorithms within ClickSense expressions, right? To enable you to do like k-means or regression models and stuff like this with your ClickSense data, and then pull this directly into a chart. But you can also modify data using server-side extensions. Same idea, right? So you want to use your analytics component to pre-calculate some forecast or something, then you can, during the load script, perform a load. And instead of a from or a SQL statement, you put extension there that allows you to pull data from directly from the server-side extension. And you can also use the functions that this toolbox offers within load scripts directly. And this is what we're going to look at in a minute. So, like I said, technology is ClickSense server-side extension. The MasterItems store here is not a database as in the QSMIR, but similar to the Ginkgo version, it's a template file or a database, or the click script again, right? So I'll show you what this means in a second. The distribution is push, which is cool, I think, because if you change the template file every time the reload runs, the master items are created or updated, which means you do not have to go into the Click application and then perform any actions within the application that then will trigger the creation or update of these items. We have create, update, and delete. So obviously there are different functions, but we'll have a look at this in a second as well. And then again, backup, yes and no. In the master item repository, it's a repo, right? So it's supposed to be storing different versions of things. This is just a way to create master items. But if you're like a Click developer, this will allow you to use the backup functionalities that you can use and the versioning and historization of your Click template file to do this. Right, so what does this look like? I'll go back to my browser and just create a new application. Call this Click demo, for example. Yeah, there we go. Now this time I'll pull in some more data just to show you how it works. I fell for it. All right, this is the problem with ClickSense Desktop, right? So let's find our QCD demo. I'll just create a new app. Call this QCD. Open it. And then pull in this Excel file. It's just some data so that we can have a load script and play around with and see what it looks like. This thing. All right. So if we go back to to our editor now. What this does, we've just loaded some data from an Excel file. I want to explain what happens there. So how do we get our measures now? So I can just go ahead and create a table called my measure and load. And now this is where we start to call the server-side extension, right? So we use the name of the server-side extension. I've called it QCB. This is, I think, the standard that Rob calls it as well. And we can see all of these methods that are created within the server-side extension. So we've got like decrypt, decode URI, delete dimension, delete measure, encode URI. So there's tons of things. Send mail, really cool, right? So if you have an SMTP server, you can use this to send out alerts and all of these other things. But we'll focus on create measure for now, right? So now this thing wants a couple of parameters for us. The first one is the name of the measure. Let's call this total sales, for example. Then we have the definition, which could be some sales, for example. Then the description, this is my awesome measure. Then we'll have some tags. Nope. And we also have like an expression so this would be the expression label, would be the last one. My measure, and then I'll run auto generate one. All right, so I look at my, I am not allowed to do this, let's just load. And go to my worksheet, and then because this is desktop, I have to refresh once. And click on edit within my master items. I have my total sales, which has been created from my load script, which is really cool. So I can also change this on the back end, for example, to if I want to update this, then I can just reload the application, and then my master item will be updated. Which is really neat. Right. I'll have to refresh again. Yeah, and this is what I think is one of the most developer-friendly ways to do it. You can create master items directly from the script. All the scripts can be pulled from ClickSense via a very easy API call. You can have your scripts outside of ClickSense by using includes. You have great flexibility with regards to the template app, which is something that I didn't show you. Let me just go back here, because now I've auto-generated this information, right? But what I could also do is instead of having this, I can fill these in with different field names and then have this load from a separate table. And I've prepared something. Let me just go in here and copy my code. Right, so now I've got an inline table, but I can obviously have multiple different lines in here and then work with this and then have this table outside of ClickSense to work with. And then with this proceeding load, I'll just load, it's not proceeding load, it's an inline load, load all of the data and then modify some from within ClickSense. Right, so if I go back to my worksheet now, I've got these 5 or 6 objects in here now. Right, so I can have all of the specifications outside of my ClickSense application and still use the load script to create my master items. The includes, like I said, allow centralization. So I have a single point where I maintain my master item specifications and then pull them in here via using click load logic, right? So I could have a table somewhere in the database where I keep all of the specifications and then load where and then keep on some app names, some tags or some other identifiers that then allow me to tell the load script which application or measure specifications is supposed to use. It's a single line of code to create a single master items. As we've seen, it's just load and then call this function once, auto generate one, done. And also using the server-side extension gives you a couple of other quality of life functions that might come in useful. in addition to creating, updating, and deleting master items. The disadvantages are it's code only, right? So we do not have an interface. When you run this, the way it looks like is this, right? So it tells you which capabilities there are, and that's it. And then the other way is if you've already got master items created in your applications, there's no easy way. There's no way, but there's no easy way to get them out, right? So the server-side extension comes with a method called get measures and get dimensions that will deliver you a JSON object that contains all of this information, but then you've got it in your hands during script runtime or on the front end, but it doesn't really give you or at least I couldn't come up with an easy way how to store this information then and serialize it. Yeah, but if you're going this direction early on in your Qlik lifecycle, I think this could be a good way if you start using this. But if you've got tons of master items already, you'll have to do some work to get this, to implement this, or you could just start using it going forward. Right. So if we go back, so this wraps up my the demos or the solutions that I wanted to introduce you to today. Let's go back to the key aspects that we've looked at when we set up, right? So MIM is the master item repository. MIM is the master item manager by Ginkgo. MIR is the master item repository, and then SSE is the server-side extension. So if we look at ease of use for developers, I think the master item repository is probably the least comfortable to use, right? Because developer doesn't have any access to it just from authoring Qlik applications. Master item manager has the ability to use the template file, and then you can have some impact on it. And the server-side extension, I think, is the it takes the cake when it comes to developer experience. I think it's more or less the other way around when it comes to administration, right? With the master item repository, you just have a simple website where you can do all the things like pull master items, push them to different applications, all these things. You do not have to touch QlikSense at all. You just you're able to manage it from the outside. Ease of implementation, I think the master item manager is the easiest way to go, because you're just using an extension, you have the data within your data model and you're good to go. Server-side extension, second place. Master item repository, like I said, it's probably the most complicated among these three to deploy, because you have to manage the communication between the Express service and the Enigma or the Enigma component and the engine API. When it comes to backup restore, I think the server-side extension, like I said, doesn't have a good way to pull the information from your existing QlikSense applications. The master item manager has the ability to download your master items in the form of the current version, in the form of the template file directly, so you could re-import it somewhere else or keep it for storage. And then obviously the master item repository gives you a way to directly pull master items and push them to a different application. Overhead-wise, I think it's similar to the ease of implementation. The master item repository requires you to keep it up and running with all the databases and everything. The server-side extension has a server component as well, and then the master item manager is just an extension that's running on your server, and you have a template file in that. When it comes to sharing across multiple environments, I think the master item repository again is probably the least favorite case, because you have at the current development stage only one QlikSense environment that you can connect to. So it could be so it's only talking to a single QlikSense side. The master item manager and the server-side extension, I think, are probably the same. But since the server-side extension is so easy to deploy measures, and you do not have to open any QlikSense applications or anything to get your measures created, I think this still has a tiny heads up. And then when it comes to leaving all of these as master items and not going any any detour via variables or anything. I think all of these are pretty much on par. So what does this leave us? Is there an overall winner, even though we've had some medals there? I don't think so. I think all of these have their place. And if I've got a recommendation for you, I don't think so, right? So all of these are free. You can try all of these by just downloading them and deploying them. And I would suggest that you just do that and then try to feel what's right for what you want to accomplish and the way that you imagine to work with MasterItems and the way that that you want to like administrate the way that they're used in your systems. If I shouldn't recommend something to you, but something that I would probably do is I think the server-side extension, but this is because I'm more leaning towards being developer-friendly and using DevOps, is Rob's server-side extension, because if you start early, you can do most of these things in a script and then keep it there. And that's it from my side. I'm sorry, I think I'm on like 7 minutes over what I was originally allocated. I hope I've been able to teach you something new today. If you want to get in touch, I've put my LinkedIn, my Twitter details, also my email address on the screen. So anytime, if you have any questions or if there are any inaccuracies that you want to rectify or something that I've missed or I could learn, just let me know. Please get in touch. I've put Rob's blog on here and the Ginkgo website because obviously I've shown their solutions as well. So it'd be more than fair to give those guys a shout out because they've got excellent solutions. They're really great. And yeah, that's it from my side. So back to you guys.
Really cool. And yeah, thanks for staying with us late. We didn't really exactly know if it's going to be 70, 80 or 90 minutes. And with even one speaker less, we filled the 90 minutes. And I hope it was very interesting, at least for me. I learned a lot. And the fact that so many people stayed the whole duration until now tells me that it's a good one. Yeah, Bernhard, what's coming next? You're muted. I guess you plan to announce the next meetups, but we still can't hear you. It doesn't really work.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Maybe a quick question to Boris regarding his presentation. I see why you preferred Rob's solution, but I also see the beauty in your solution, and I would think that if you give it some more love, it has huge potential. So, what are your plans with it?
Hi, thanks, Bernhard. So it's a side project. Like I said, it's something that it's obviously free, so I have to like develop in my free time. I don't know if this is where the time comes from, but so the plans are. So I want to fill in some gaps still, but I also have like the hope that Qlik themselves will like provide a way to do this properly from within the Qlik Management Console or the App Management Console in the future. But as for the project, I want to include like updating MasterItems. I think this is like one of the bigger shortcomings here. So if you change something and then push it back into an application, then this should update the existing master item rather than creating another one with the same name, which is a bit stupid, I guess. When it comes to there's some other like backend features, I want to like polish the front end. But what was important to me when I like released it for the first time was that it just does what it does, right? So it gives you a way to quickly save and archive the master item definitions, which are currently lost when you overwrite them in your ClickSense environment, and it does that perfectly. With the deployment, I think there are a couple of things that could be done or should be done, but it's open source, right? So if anybody like has an idea or anything, just open an issue on GitHub or even better, create a pull request, and then we'll merge it at some point, or I'll keep working on it. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks again for your work. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks very much.
So great. So I think wrapping up would take too long. Just let me give you some brief information about the next meetup event, which is already scheduled for 16th of November. There we will talk about versioning in ClickSense. So we have got a very known speaker. It is Konrad Matthijs. He formerly worked for Aquinet and is now at Deloitte. And he will show us two extensions for VS Code that enables you to make versioning happen in ClickSense, which I think some of us will want to use. So hopefully you like this, and we already have plans for the next presentations, but they are not. Let's say we cannot speak about them now. So I hope this is the first of many more meetings to come. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments. Get in touch with us. If you have ideas, let us know. We are open for suggestions. And yeah, Christoph, do you have anything to say?
Just the fact that while this meeting was ongoing, I quickly created a link on GitHub where we can put our presentations. So if Boris, you can send me this, or you asked for a pull request, I can just share this, and you can share your PowerPoint. It was a great drawings. So I wouldn't apologize for this. I would rather apologize for the rest of the PowerPoint rather than your artistic talent here. So you can get more out of it. And I want to enjoy the workshop just on whiteboarding. So there is always another career, and your artwork is great, really. And to your MasterItems, of course.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for having me, guys. It was really great to be part of your inaugural first Austria meetup.
I hope we can bring more dynamics into the Alpenrepublik, Austria, and have also speakers from Austria the next time. Looking forward to any suggestions.
Great. Then, thank you for tuning in, and I hope we will see you on the next meetup.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Du Boris, du bist jetzt Gastgeber. Kannst du das Aufzeichnen beenden?
Ich gebe dir mal lieber die Rechte zurück, bevor ich hier irgendeinen falschen Knopf drücke und du mir dann von der Zugspitze schubst.
Machst du das wieder? Okay. So.
Ja, gute Ideen, wirklich.
Stopp.